but I'll just finish it off with the spatula. You know, this is such a quick and easy cake to make. It takes, well, 30 to 35 minutes to bake, and it takes an hour and a half to cool. Also, I think you want to avoid doing it when it's humid out. Especially people were writing to me from Singapore. They didn't say they were from Singapore. They just said that their angel food and chiffon drops out of the pan regularly. And it finally occurred to me to ask them where they were writing from, and it was Singapore. It's so humid there that the extra weight of the water is too much for the weight when it's in the pan. Okay, yesterday I just wanted for once and for all to see what the difference is between just putting it in the pan or spreading it on first. And the one that I spread on gave so much nicer side. I started doing that some years ago and started wondering if it was really necessary. But you know how you can get big holes in the side? If you just spread, I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done, almost to the top, because the egg white will start drying the minute it goes in the oven, and it doesn't start rising for about 5 minutes. I'm just doing it for the outside portion. You know, we should bake this. We may be creating a whole new thing, quite like Zweibox, Zwei angel food. We'll have the crumbs integrated. Somebody just called me yesterday to ask if they could take cookies. They had a whole bunch of leftover cookies and turn them into crumbs and then bake them as using it instead of flour in a cake. I said, oh, do, and let me know how it works out. But, you know, I think you're going to have destroyed the ability of the flour to gelatinize. In fact, I'm sure. There. Okay, so now the rest of it gets spooned in. Oh, good idea. And then at the end, I'm going to go through it with the spatula to make sure there are no big pockets. Oops. I like to leave it uncovered after it comes out of the oven and after it's cooled. I invert the pan, and when it's unmolded, I leave it uncovered for at least an hour, because otherwise the moisture in the inside of the cake makes the top of it sticky. And that's why if you make it on a humid day, you also get a very sticky top. So this is one cake you don't have to worry about drying out as much as others. But you know, the store-bought ones have been so elastic and rubbery that I recommended using them for the bottom of a cheesecake, because you don't taste it, because all the nice lemon and sour cream that comes out of the cheesecake goes into the angel food cake, and it makes it more. And the minute it gets the moisture, it loses all of its rubberiness and becomes really tender. So that's why if you start with a really tender one, it will become mush. Oops. I wouldn't necessarily, if I were doing this, say, for television, I would say, okay, you know, this is as far as we go, because it takes hours to scrape the bowl clean. But I want you to see how much it fills the pan when it's beaten this way. Besides, when I did do my TV show, the producer kept saying to me, stop scraping it. It costs $100 a scrape. She must be causing that interference right now. But you know, in baking, if you don't scrape the bowl, you could end up with an entirely different cake, because so much of it can stay in the bowl, it throws off the ratio of other ingredients. See, every cake that we made, every ingredient was weighed so that each one is identical. The only difference, and the pans are identical, the only difference is the type of flour. So here's what it looks like. You can all see?
What would happen if you wrapped it on the counter? I once saw a demo on television where the very dictatorial host said to the guest who was mixing the cake, and fancy yourself a great baker, and wrapped it on the table. She said, don't do that.
Well, you're building all this volume into a cake, especially like in a genoise when you're beating it, and by wrapping it, you lose a lot of it. this, look, if I wrap it, look what will happen, nothing. It's going nowhere because it's so stable. But I would never do that to a genoise. But I would do it to a layer cake, except once I did, and half of it spurted out on the window. I was teaching a class, and I scraped it off the window. I hadn't had any choice. And I don't know about this. Carl Sondheimer of Cuisinart years ago asked me that. He took a step toward me in a kind of menacing, intimidating way, and he said, "Does it make any difference if you tap? If you tap it?" See, every time I talk about somebody, there's a voice that says, "Stop while you're ahead." He said, "Does it make any difference if you do that?" And I said, no. And he said, and then he took a step even closer, and he said, "And does it make a difference if you sift the flour?" And I took a step closer to him, and I said, "It certainly does." Well, I think that's it. Oh no, it's time to eat. So please pass out the samples, and then after you had a chance to say there's one sample that you should not try until the end, because it's like with the chocolate tasting where you always start with the sweeter one and go to the more bitter. If you try the one that we tell you not to first, you won't be able to taste the other two. So the one that's what? Blue. Green. That must be colorblind. The one that's green is the one to save for the end. Which do you think they should start with? I guess start with the red. Start with the red, go to the blank. Look and see what it looks like, the color, feel the texture, and look at the cell structure, and then taste it.
I'll take 3.
Oh yeah.
There's 2 reds on her plate.
You get the prize. You get to take home all the leftover angel food.
Switch that one.
Oh, I forgot to tell you something really important, and that's that the great thing about angel food cake is that I've used up every one of my egg white collection for the past 2 years, and these only are 2 years old. I've used 4-year-old egg whites, frozen, that I've eaten, and I still have here, you know. And then they performed exactly the same. But the thing you can do is to freeze them and then refreeze them. You know, they can't thaw freeze because they won't have quite the same structure. Start with the red, then the no color, and then the blue or green, however you see it.
Does everybody have cake sample?
That one we want to see.
Tastes like, tastes like, yeah. Well, isn't it better tasting like, isn't that better? Somebody said it tastes like vanilla. I said, isn't that better than tasting like egg white or sugar? In fact, I have one version where I put vanilla beans in with the sugar because that's even nicer. It has a little crunch to it. And then one that I do cocoa or else bitter. Yeah, you can flavor it. And then I'll ask for a show of hands as to who likes what the best.
Blind. Do it blind.
I'm blind?
No,
I'm
have them raise their hands up blind so they're not influenced.
Oh. So do you all see the huge difference between the three? Yeah. Okay. So, who likes the blue best? Blue-green best?
The green.
Okay. Israel? 2 people? Who likes the red best?
I like the red.
But best? Well, who likes the white best? Okay, white's the wonder. And what I find most remarkable about it is that it melts in your mouth. Take another bite and you'll see what I mean.